Hey guys, there's this movie about one of my brethren stuck on the west coast, trying to make a name for himself. It's called Narcotic, and it's pretty lit. The main character is some guy that wants to go to college, but unfortunately, he was born and raised in the cuts, so it's all bad for him. Yet despite growing up in the streets, he still finds the time to be a dweeb, so I guess the hood niggas missed his spots. I actually watched the movie years ago when it first came out, and I thought it was pretty cool, and what do you know, it still is. So now let's go over it. So the movie starts out with the main character listening to some music. As we can see, he's fanned out over the 80s and 90s, decades that he didn't really experience, so we already know what kind of nigga he is. Then he goes downstairs to tell his mom about how Bitcoin is going to take over the world instead of the dollar, but it's been like a minute since the movie came out, so I'm still waiting. There's some guy telling us about the life of the main character and the daily struggles he has to go through. He lives with a single mother because one of my uncles ditched him and just sent him a movie to make up for it. As I said before, he grew up in the streets and he has two friends. One is a male and the other is a female. The male is irrelevant and the female friend likes women, which puts her homophobic parents in their feelings. So the three of them spend their time liking obscure things, which gets them bullied, which is dumb because lame hood niggas still can't accept the fact that not everybody has the same interests. But then again, the trio's in a band where they play some weirdo music, so that might contribute to them getting the heat. I will say though, there's like one song they play later on in the movie that's actually pretty lit, so I can't call them entirely trash. At least better than most of the bums that are putting out music now. So one time when they're trying to get out of class, a bunch of lame ass ops run up on them and tell them to run their shoes, because I guess their ops are out of reach. So when the leader tells the main character to do what needs to be done, he does the dash on him, because he's not trying to give any part of his fits to those that don't deserve it. So they get chased through the school until the security guard, who's a character in a different movie that I might go over later, but not next week, so don't expect it anytime soon, checks them, and makes them go back to the trash they came from. Then the main character meets up with an academic advisor, because he wants to go to Harvard. The main character is fleeing himself for his essay, but the advisor tells him it wasn't really all that, so he just stopped gassing himself up. Then he tells him about a meeting with some other guy that can get him in, so you know, future plot points. But when the main character is taking his bike home, some gang member tells him to come over. It's ASAP Rocky, and he asks the main character why he's so fanned out over the 90s, so he says some dumb shit about albums that didn't even come out that decade. So Rocky puts him in his place, so we already know this is a nigga with actual sense. Then he tells him to go talk to some girl for him, because he doesn't want to do it himself, so you know, some respect lost, but still one of the better characters. The main character goes to talk to some girl, and she starts talking wild about Rocky, and the main character goes to relay the message, so Rocky tells him to tell her about his kickback, and she says she'll only go if the main character is going too. After all this, the main character tells his allies about what happened, and they want to go too, so it looks like this is gonna be a group adventure. When the three of them try to get into the location, the bouncer does them dirty, so they have to find a different approach. They try sneaking in, but they get caught, but Rocky tells the bouncer to let them in, and when he refuses, Rocky has to explain to Vince Staples and the rest of his niggas what happens if he lets disrespect from the bouncer slide, and they give the beats to the bouncer to prevent anyone else from thinking they can question Rocky's authority like that. While the trio's at the party, they partake in the usual nonsense, you know, drinking, smoking, all that, and the main character tries to get at Rocky's wife, but he tells him to get lost, but then Rocky himself evacuates to conduct a deal for drugs. He goes to some other room where the niggas and Tiger are watching and celebrating drone strikes on the opposite Middle East, and then it becomes an enlightened conversation about the ethics of drones and relationships between citizens and their governments, as formulated by the great thinkers of our past. That's enough thought for one day. As the guys decide to begin the drug deal, Tiger offers Rocky some of the white stuff to make it into the big leagues of drug trafficking, but then some massive niggas pull up and start printing t-shirts, so Rocky has to do the dash. He manages to escape, but then he sees the ops have invaded the entire building, so he has to lay low, and he spots the main character, who then makes a run for it. Then Rocky gets arrested, and the main character swoops to the wife, so a bunch of guys from the party manage to fuck off. Then the main character is walking with Rocky's wife when he sees his friends, but he ditches them to get a ride with her instead. Then while they're in her whip, the main character and the wife start talking about life or something, and she says she's trying to get a GED to go to college, and that she never wants a prom, so the main character asks if he can take her, but she's not trying to do all that, so he offers to help her study and pass, and then she says she'll think about it. The next day, the main character is happy to his associates about what he did with the girl. When they try to pass through the school security, the alarm keeps going off, but the gardener knows that the main character is a nice kid that never did anything to anybody, so he just lets him go. Then he looks in the bag and sees something he wasn't expecting, so he does the dash, and his friends follow him to some room in the back where they discover a strap and some of the white in the main character's bag. The main character realizes that Rocky is responsible for this transgression, and he gets a call from someone who knows his name and where he stays, so he tells him to bring the bag to a whip after class. When the main character goes outside to make the transaction, his friends pussy out to let him do it by himself, but right before he does that, he gets a call from Rocky telling him it's a setup, and he's about to be either put in the system or put in a blunt, and tells him to vacate the premises and meet up with some other guy, which he does, along with the other two. Despite doing the most to avoid them, the ops still know where the three of them are at any points in time because they have a tracker on them. Then they see they're on the bus being driven by the main character's mom, and they stop like that one scene from that movie I'm not going to go over because it's based on real people, and because it kind of becomes trash towards the end because the creators go on some ego trip and decide to talk wild about the one member of the group that's no longer with us. But anyway, it turns out the main character just left his phone on the bus to get the ops off his tail. So then he goes to some location that Rocky sent him to, and it's some rich guy's crib with some limb that thinks he's a gang member despite living in the hills. He tells him that the guy they're supposed to meet up with is his father, and then they gun on his ass for his need to swipe out some of the seeds with bees, but not all of them. And also they start making music together. But while the lame and the main character's friends go out to get food, the main character himself stays back with his sister, who gets off one just to play some games with him. She makes him reveal that he hasn't hit anything yet, but she's gonna fix that for him, so she tells him to go while she uses the bathroom. Meanwhile, the other guys are getting food, and the ops pull up and tell them they need the bag, but the lame doesn't understand what time it is, tries to step up to them. Back at the crib, the girl that the main character was with has gotten off on the white stuff and starts grinding on the main character and ends up throwing up on him, so you know this has been a massive L. He tries to leave when he finds that he's late for a college meeting, so she offers to take him there, but then she starts driving like a psycho and passes out with 12 right behind them, so the main character is concerned. But when she wakes up, she just ditches him to go piss in a bush, but it doesn't really matter because it turns out 12's looking for something else. It comes back to the restaurant, and the op just holds the lame, makes him shoot himself, but the main character's friends manage to escape. Then the main character takes the whip to the college interview, where he sees a picture of Rocky, the lame, and the girl. So he realizes this college guy is actually a drug kingpin or something, so he tells him he has the white stuff for him, but the college guy tells him in a complicated way that he needs to push the white stuff for him, and that if it works out, he might get into Harvard, and also that the interview is being pushed back, and he also kind of threatens to wet up him and his niggas, so we know he's about it. The main character gets in the bus being driven by his mom, and there's a scene where all the characters are on the bus for some reason, and there's some news on TV about the girl from earlier pissing on a bush. When the main character tells his friends about what he has to do, they struggle with knowing how to sell the whites, until the main character comes up with the idea to use the dark web to sell it, and they go to some guy that's able to set it up for them. He's some guy that they met in a camp like a minute ago, who hacks the school's website to make sure he passed, so him and some other guys go to some place where he gets into a debate with a female friend as to why he can't say nigga, but the other two give him the pass so he can help them. But when he says he still gets hoed by her, but anyway, he helps them put it into pills, and then they set up shop at the school. So there's this concert where the trio performs at, and when he wakes up, he finds out that people actually listen to his band because of the party, so it looks like things might be turning up for them. After this, the main character starts getting orders for the whites from the website they set up, so now it's time to package the product and get it sent out. While the three of them are engaged in criminal activity, the school sees them as doing a science experiment, so it's all good for them. After that, the guys are taking their bikes along when the main character runs into Rocky's wife again and opts her study like before. While they're together, she starts feeling him and talking about Rocky, but then the main character feels like something is wrong and accuses her of being sent by Rocky to handle his business, so she gets in her feelings and leaves the crib. But my thing is, you're a grown-ass woman hanging with hood niggas. Like, I know that main character made the wrong call, but who are you to be a victim? Like, what? Later on, the main character is taking the SATs, but it's not on this particular day. There's a drug search going on throughout the school, so the main character has to do the most to get his bag back. Then he gets stopped by the security guard, but once again, the security guard doesn't do anything to him because he thinks he's a civilian. Then the male friend gets in his feelings over being involved, while the female friend shows loyalty. So they all go back to the dark web guy, and he gets him set it up so that they can get that Bitcoin into real money, but it's too risky to do it the regular way. They do it through the black market, and they meet up with Cap G, who makes things more difficult for them, to see if they have the testicles to do business with him. And of course, the soft-ass friends fail, but the main character stays 10 toes down and passes, so he gets the money. Then as they're walking out, they get jumped by the ops from earlier, who finished the green, so the main character has to apple pull on them and make them drop it. But it's really difficult for him to do it, so his friends offer their support. So when the main character goes back to meet with the college guy, he tells him about the dark web, and I saw the white stuff through there. And he lets him know that if he tries anything, he can get him put him in a cell, so it looks like a W. So now the main character is talking about his life for his Harvard essay, while the band plays an actually lit song in the background for once. Then he sends a letter to Rocky's wife, and they go back to being allies, so that's cool. The movie ends with the main character getting his acceptance letter, which probably says he got in. Overall, this movie was some heat. I really liked it when I first saw it, and even now I'd say it's far above average. I think it goes to show niggas from the bottom that there really isn't one path cut out for them. I recommend that all you Negroes watch it if you haven't already. I mean, I know I told you what happens in it, but like, you clicked on the video, so it's whatever. The moral of the story is to check your bag whenever someone gives it to you, because there might be something in it that gets you caught up. Okay guys, make sure that when you subscribe you hit the notification button, because that lets you know whenever I make a new video, and as always, thanks for watching.